Imagine discovering that your greatest military victory was actually your most humiliating defeat. Picture the horror of realizing that the warriors who nearly destroyed your elite forces weren't even real soldiers, they were just children playing at war. This is the nightmare that keeps alien royalty awake across 3-star systems, trembling at a truth so devastating it threatens to topple empires built over millennia. What they thought was humanity's finest hour was merely Tuesday afternoon training for a handful of teenagers with basic equipment. The galaxy's most feared civilizations are about to learn why humans don't send their best to first contact situations, they send their scouts. And if mere scouts can do this much damage, what happens when Earth decides to get serious? Welcome to a universe where being human isn't just an advantage, it's a cosmic-level threat that makes alien royalty reconsider everything they thought they knew about power, warfare, and survival itself. The crystalline throne room of Zephyria Prime had never hosted such a gathering. Representatives from 7 major galactic powers sat in uncomfortable silence, their various forms of alien nobility trying to process information that defied everything they understood about warfare, politics, and survival. High Commander Vex Thara of the Krillian Empire shifted her forearms nervously, the bioluminescent patches along her carapace flickering with anxiety. Across from her, Prince Multhorn of the Draconian Confederation kept running his clawed fingers through his mane, a nervous habit that had developed ever since the incident 3 months ago. The Ethereal Collective's representative, a being of pure energy housed in a containment suit, buzzed with unstable frequencies that made the other attendees' universal translators crackle with interference. At the head of the gathering sat Empress Zara Lin, ruler of the Zephyrian Federation, and arguably the most powerful individual in this sector of the galaxy. Her normally pristine silver skin had taken on a dull gray hue, and her 6 eyes kept darting between the holographic displays floating before them. Each display showed the same devastating footage from different angles, recorded by various surveillance systems during what was supposed to have been a simple first contact mission. The silence stretched until Minister Queth Maul of the Voidseekers finally spoke, his voice a low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We need to discuss what happened at the Sol system. We need to understand how this is possible." Empress Zara Lin's primary eyes focused on the minister, while her secondary eyes continued monitoring the other attendees. "What is there to understand? We sent our finest warriors, our most advanced ships, our most experienced commanders. We expected to encounter a primitive civilization that had barely achieved faster than light travel. Instead, we found ourselves facing opponents who fought with such skill and ferocity that we barely escaped with our lives." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Each leader present had contributed ships and personnel to the joint expedition, convinced that overwhelming force would ensure both victory and the acquisition of new territory and resources. The humans had been observed for months from long-range sensors, their technology assessed and found wanting, their military capabilities deemed insignificant. High Commander Vex Thara activated her personal display, showing a detailed breakdown of the forces that had been deployed. 347 vessels of various classes, over 50,000 trained warriors, weapon systems that have conquered 18 different star systems in the past decade. We should have swept through their defenses like solar wind through space dust. Prince Multhorn's growl was audible even through the translator. Should have. But we didn't. Instead, we lost 63 ships, including the flagship Devastator's Edge, over 8,000 casualties. And for what? We never even reached the planet they call Earth. The Ethereal Collective's representative pulsed brighter. The humans employed tactics we had never encountered. Their ships moved in patterns that our tactical computers couldn't predict. Their weapons, while primitive in design, were deployed with surgical precision that turned our own formations against us. Empress Zara Lin gestured, and the central hologram shifted to show the battle's opening moments. The massive alien fleet hung in space like a storm cloud of metal and energy, weapons powered and shields raised. Approaching them was a small group of human vessels, perhaps 30 ships in total, their designs looking almost quaint compared to the sophisticated alien technology arrayed against them. "Watch this again," the Empress commanded, though none of them wanted to relive the humiliation. Our sensors detected their approach from 3 light minutes away. Standard protocol suggested they would either flee or attempt some form of communication. Instead, they did something unprecedented. The human ships suddenly scattered in what appeared to be complete chaos. No formation, no apparent strategy, just 30 small vessels flying in seemingly random directions. The alien commanders had been puzzled but not concerned. Chaos was often the first sign of panic among inferior species. Minister Quethmol's form shifted, darkness rippling across his containment field. They weren't panicking, they were baiting us. The hologram continued, showing how the alien fleet had pursued the scattered human vessels, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. It seemed logical to divide their forces to hunt down each human ship individually. After all, what could 30 primitive vessels do against the might of 7 galactic civilizations? High Commander Vexthera's bioluminescent patches dimmed as the display reached the critical moment. This is where everything went wrong. When we separated our forces to pursue them individually, we played right into their strategy. The scattered human ships had suddenly regrouped with impossible coordination, appearing as if from nowhere behind the now divided alien formations. Their weapons, while less advanced, struck with devastating precision at weak points in alien shield systems and hull designs. More importantly, they seemed to know exactly where those weak points were, as if they had studied alien technology for decades rather than encountering it for the first time. Prince Malthorn stood abruptly, his massive frame casting shadows across the room. They knew our capabilities better than we knew theirs. Every weakness in our defensive systems, every limitation of our weapons, every flaw in our tactical doctrine. It was as if they had fought us 1,000 times before. The ethereal collective's representative buzzed with agitation. The human commander's communications were intercepted during the engagement. The individual identified as Commander Sarah Chen was heard giving orders to her subordinates. The translation was disturbing. Empress Zara Lin activated another display, showing the transcript of the intercepted communications. The words appeared in the flowing script of the Zephyrian language, but their meaning was clear enough to make several attendees shift uncomfortably in their seats. Targets are following predicted patterns. Alpha Squadron, execute flanking maneuver 7. Bravo Squadron, target their command vessels using tactical plan Delta 4. Remember, we want some of them to escape so they can report back. Make it look good, but don't get carried away. The silence that followed was deafening. Minister Quethmol was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. Make it look good? They were holding back. High Commander Vexthera's forearms moved in what her species considered a gesture of profound disturbance. The analysis of the battle patterns confirms it. At several points during the engagement, human vessels had clear opportunities to destroy our ships entirely, but instead, inflicted just enough damage to disable them. They were controlling the engagement's intensity. The implications were staggering. If the humans had been holding back, if they had been deliberately limiting their attack to avoid total destruction of the alien fleet, then the question became, what were they really capable of when they stopped playing games? Empress Zara Lin's 6 eyes focused on a new hologram, this one showing the aftermath of the battle. Damaged alien ships, limping away from the battlefield. Their crews traumatized and demoralized. The human vessels had disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared, vanishing into the void of space without pursuit or follow-up attack. The psychological impact on our forces has been severe. The Empress continued. Our warriors, who had never known defeat, suddenly found themselves outmaneuvered by opponents they had expected to crush without effort. Morale across all 7 fleets has plummeted. Some commanders are refusing to undertake missions in human space. Prince Malthorn's claws scraped against the crystalline floor. But perhaps most disturbing of all is what we discovered 3 days ago. The intelligence report that changes everything we thought we knew about this engagement. A new hologram materialized, showing what appeared to be a routine intelligence briefing. The document was marked with the highest security classifications from multiple alien governments, and its contents had been verified through multiple independent sources. Minister Quethmol read the critical passage aloud, his voice trembling with implications. Human forces encountered in the Sol system engagement have been identified through deep space reconnaissance as belonging to the 47th Scout Regiment of the Earth Colonial Survey Division. Analysis of ship configurations and personnel manifests indicates these were not frontline military units but rather exploration and reconnaissance personnel aged between 16 and 24 standard years. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a weight that seemed to crush the very air around them. The ethereal collective's representative flickered rapidly, its energy field destabilizing with shock. High Commander Vexthara's bioluminescent patches went completely dark. Scouts. Children. We were defeated by human children on a training exercise. Empress Zara Lin manipulated the hologram to show detailed analysis of the human ships. Their vessels were not even military grade according to our intelligence. They were survey ships, exploration craft, training vessels designed to give young humans experience in space operations. The weapons they used were standard-issue equipment for colonial protection, not military-grade armaments. The weight of this revelation settled over the gathering like a funeral shroud. If human scouts, mere children using exploration vessels and training weapons, could defeat the combined might of 7 galactic civilizations, what would happen when Earth sent actual soldiers with real weapons? Prince Mothorn's voice was barely audible. What kind of species raises children who can outfight our finest warriors? The question hung in the air, unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. Each leader present was beginning to understand that their assumptions about humanity, about their own superiority, about the balance of power in the galaxy, had been fundamentally wrong. Minister Quethmol's form shifted again, darkness expanding as his agitation grew. We need to know more. We need to understand what we're really dealing with, because if this is what human scouts can do, then we need to know what human soldiers are capable of before we make any more contact attempts. Empress Zara Lin nodded slowly, her 6 eyes reflecting the glow of the holograms around them. Agreed. But there's something else we need to consider. If the humans wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already. The fact that they allowed our forces to retreat suggests they may have been sending us a message. What kind of message? High Commander Vexthara asked, though her tone suggested she already feared the answer. The Empress's silver skin shifted to a deeper gray as she spoke. A demonstration. They showed us exactly enough of their capabilities to make us understand that we are not the apex predators we thought we were, but they also showed us mercy, which suggests they might be willing to negotiate rather than simply annihilate us. The implications of this possibility were almost as terrifying as the alternative. If the humans were sophisticated enough to deliberately limit their response to send a political message, then they possessed not only superior military capabilities but also strategic thinking that operated on levels the gathered aliens had never considered. As the meeting continued deep into the night cycle of Zephyria Prime, one thing became increasingly clear to every representative present. The galaxy had changed, and none of them were prepared for what that change might bring. 2 weeks after the emergency summit on Zephyria Prime, intelligence teams from all 7 civilizations had been working around the clock to gather information about humanity. What they discovered made their initial defeat seem like a minor inconvenience compared to the growing horror of understanding exactly what they had encountered. The Krillian Intelligence Directorate's main facility buzzed with activity as analysts pored over every scrap of data they could gather about human civilization. High Commander Vexthara stood before a massive display wall that now showed a comprehensive breakdown of human society, military structure, and technological capabilities. Each revelation was more disturbing than the last. Intelligence analyst Crixana, her smaller frame dwarfed by the commander's imposing presence, gestured nervously at the flowing data streams. "Commander, we've completed our analysis of human demographic structures. The implications are troubling." The display shifted to show population breakdowns, age distributions, and what appeared to be organizational charts of human society. High Commander Vexthara's 4 arms moved in patterns of increasing agitation as she processed the information. "Explain," she commanded, though part of her didn't want to hear the explanation. Analyst Crixana's bioluminescent patches flickered with stress. "The humans we encountered, the ones we identified as scouts, represent approximately 0.3% of their total military age population. Furthermore, these scouts are not considered combat personnel by human standards. They're essentially young adults gaining experience before potential military service." The commander's primary arms clenched into fists. "You're saying that less than 1/3% of their potential warriors, using training equipment, defeated our combined fleets? It gets worse, Commander. According to our deep space intelligence gathering, human society is structured in ways we don't fully understand. What we call military service appears to be optional for most humans. Their actual military consists of volunteers who have chosen combat as their profession. These individuals undergo training regimens that appear to be significantly more intensive than anything we've observed in galactic civilization. The display shifted again, showing intercepted communications and cultural analysis reports. High Commander Vex Thera studied the data with growing alarm. Human society appeared to operate on principles that were completely foreign to the hierarchical systems that dominated galactic politics. "Show me the military structure analysis," she ordered. The wall display reorganized itself to present a complex diagram of human military organization. Unlike the straightforward command structures used by galactic civilizations, human military hierarchy seemed to emphasize adaptability, individual initiative, and something their language called combined arms tactics. Analyst Crixana highlighted specific sections of the display. Their military doctrine appears to be based on the assumption that they will be fighting opponents with superior numbers and technology. Every aspect of their training and equipment design reflects this assumption. They have developed strategies specifically for defeating larger, more technologically advanced forces. The implications hit High Commander Vex Thera like a plasma bolt to the thorax. They've been preparing to fight us before they even knew we existed. Meanwhile, in the capital city of the Draconian Confederation, Prince Malthorn was receiving his own disturbing intelligence briefing. The massive war chamber that had seen the planning of countless successful conquests now felt oppressive as his advisors presented their findings. Strategic advisor Rathgon, his scaled hide scarred from decades of warfare, manipulated holographic displays with claws that had once torn through enemy armor with ease. Now those same claws trembled slightly as he revealed the results of their investigation into human warfare capabilities. "Your Highness, we've analyzed the weapons technology used by the human scouts. What we found defies our understanding of technological development patterns." Prince Malthorn's golden eyes focused intently on the display. "Explain this defiance." "The weapons used against our forces were primitive in design but devastating in application. They appear to use kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, and directed energy systems that should be completely ineffective against our defensive technologies. Yet somehow, they penetrated our shields and armor with ease." The hologram showed detailed breakdowns of the weapon's impacts on Draconian vessels. Each hit had struck at precisely the right angle, with exactly the right amount of force, to cause maximum damage while using minimal energy. It was precision that suggested not just superior marksmanship, but intimate knowledge of Draconian defensive systems. Advisor Rathgon continued his disturbing report. "The humans appear to have developed their weapons with specific knowledge of galactic armor and shield technologies. Every projectile, every energy beam, every explosive charge was optimized to exploit weaknesses in our defensive systems that we didn't even know existed." Prince Malthorn rose from his throne, his massive frame casting shadows across the war chamber. "Are you suggesting they've been studying us? Planning for conflict? That's the most logical explanation, Your Highness. But here's what makes this truly alarming. According to our intelligence, humans have had faster-than-light travel for less than 50 years. They've only been aware of galactic civilization for approximately 30 years. Yet they've developed countermeasures for weapons and armor technologies that have been in use for centuries." The prince's roar echoed through the chamber, a sound of frustration and growing fear. "How is such rapid adaptation possible?" "We believe it has to do with human learning capabilities, Your Highness. Their brains appear to process tactical information at rates we previously thought impossible. They don't just learn from their own experiences. They seem to absorb and integrate knowledge from multiple sources simultaneously. In the ethereal realms where the collective maintained its primary consciousness nodes, similar revelations were causing unprecedented disturbances in the energy patterns that constituted their civilization. The being known as prime resonance flickered through spectrums of light that hadn't been seen since the collective's earliest days of existence. Information flowed through the collective's shared consciousness like disrupted electricity, carrying with it the growing realization that their encounter with humanity had revealed a species unlike anything in their vast databases of galactic knowledge. Secondary harmonic, a younger consciousness that specialized in tactical analysis, projected its findings into the shared awareness. The information manifested as cascading patterns of light and sound that conveyed meaning more efficiently than traditional communication methods. The humans exhibit cognitive patterns that suggest multiple parallel processing capabilities within individual minds, secondary harmonic communicated. During the engagement, Their command personnel were simultaneously managing ship-to-ship combat, fleet coordination, strategic planning, and what appears to be psychological warfare tactics against our forces. Prime Resonance's energy field fluctuated with distress. Explain the psychological warfare component. Analysis of our crew debriefings reveals that human communications during the battle were designed not just to coordinate their own forces, but to demoralize ours. They deliberately allowed certain transmissions to be intercepted, knowing we would translate and hear them. The psychological impact of hearing opponents discuss our weaknesses in real time while demonstrating their ability to exploit those weaknesses was devastating to morale. The shared consciousness rippled with the implications. If humans were sophisticated enough to wage psychological warfare during their first contact with galactic civilization, what other capabilities might they possess? Back on Zephyria Prime, Empress Zaralyn was reviewing the most disturbing intelligence report yet. Her private chambers, normally a sanctuary of crystalline beauty and peaceful meditation, now felt like a war room as holographic displays surrounded her with increasingly alarming information about human society. Chief Intelligence Officer Murthak had been one of her most trusted advisors for over 2 decades. His usual calm demeanor had been replaced by obvious anxiety as he presented his findings. Your Imperial Majesty, we've completed our analysis of human social structures, and what we've discovered challenges everything we understand about civilization development. The Empress's 6 eyes focused on different aspects of the display simultaneously, a skill that had made her one of the most effective rulers in galactic history. Now that same ability was allowing her to process multiple streams of disturbing information about humanity. Present your findings, she commanded, though her silver skin had already begun shifting to the gray hues that indicated stress. Officer Murthak manipulated the displays to show demographic and cultural analysis charts. Human society appears to be built around a concept they call individual autonomy. Unlike galactic civilizations where citizens are born into specific roles and castes, humans can choose their life paths. This creates a population where individuals actively seek challenges and pursue excellence in their chosen fields. The Empress's primary eyes narrowed. And this relates to their military capabilities. How? Your Majesty, humans who choose military service do so voluntarily, often seeking the most difficult and dangerous assignments available. They view warfare not as a necessity or obligation, but as the ultimate test of their personal capabilities. This means their military is composed entirely of individuals who want to be there and who actively seek combat challenges. The implications were staggering. While galactic militaries were typically filled with conscripts fulfilling mandatory service or individuals assigned to military roles by social caste, human military forces consisted entirely of volunteers who had specifically chosen warfare as their preferred activity. Officer Murthak continued his briefing. Furthermore, human society appears to celebrate what they call underdogs, individuals or groups who overcome superior opponents through skill, determination, and innovative thinking. Their entire cultural mythology revolves around stories of smaller forces defeating larger ones, weaker individuals overcoming stronger opponents, and clever tactics triumphing over superior technology. Empress Zaralyn's skin shifted to an even deeper gray. They have an entire culture built around doing exactly what they did to us. Yes, Your Majesty. And there's more. Human children are exposed to competitive activities from early ages. They participate in games that simulate warfare, problem-solving exercises that require tactical thinking, and educational systems that encourage questioning authority and finding innovative solutions to complex problems. The display shifted to show examples of human educational and recreational activities. Children as young as 6 years old participated in complex team-based competitions that required strategic thinking, rapid adaptation to changing conditions, and coordination with teammates. Older children engaged in simulations that were essentially warfare scenarios disguised as entertainment. They train their entire population for warfare, the Empress whispered, the words carrying the weight of a death sentence. Not intentionally, Your Majesty. It appears to be an emergent property of their social structure. The same qualities that make humans effective at commerce, science, and diplomacy also make them exceptionally capable warriors. They don't separate civilian and military thinking the way we do. Chief Intelligence Officer Murthak activated a final display that showed what was perhaps the most disturbing discovery of all. Your Majesty, We've intercepted communications from the human command structure regarding the incident in the Sol system. The display showed a translated transcript of human military communications from the days following the engagement with galactic forces. Empress Zara Lin read it with growing alarm. Recommendation: maintain current patrol strength in outer system. Engagement with unknown hostiles proceeded within acceptable parameters. Scout Regiment 47 performed admirably under first contact conditions. No additional forces required at this time. Priority: continue training exercises as scheduled. The Empress's 6 eyes widened as the full impact of the message became clear. They're not mobilizing. They're not increasing their defenses. They defeated our combined fleets and then went back to routine training exercises. Yes, Your Majesty. From the human perspective, our engagement appears to have been a minor incident that didn't require any significant response. They've classified it as a successful first contact scenario and moved on. The silence that followed was filled with the weight of revelation. If humanity considered the defeat of 7 galactic civilizations to be a routine success that didn't warrant additional attention, what would they consider a significant threat? Officer Murthak's final report section appeared on the display. Your Majesty. Intelligence estimates suggest that the forces we encountered represent less than 1% of human military capability. If they chose to mobilize fully, current projections indicate they could field forces outnumbering our combined fleets by factors we don't want to calculate. Empress Zara Lin closed all 6 eyes, trying to process information that threatened to shatter her understanding of galactic power structures. When she opened them again, her decision was clear. Send a message to all our intelligence networks. I want to know everything about human society, their history, their capabilities, and their intentions. And send another message to our fleet commanders. Under no circumstances are any of our forces to approach human space without explicit authorization from this office. As the intelligence briefing concluded, one fact became increasingly clear across all 7 civilizations. They had encountered a species that operated on principles completely foreign to galactic civilization, and their first contact had revealed only the smallest glimpse of human capabilities. The question now was whether it would be possible to establish peaceful relations with a species that had been unconsciously preparing for galactic warfare since before they knew such a galaxy existed. 3 months after what galactic civilizations considered a catastrophic military defeat, the human outpost on Kepler Station buzzed with routine activity. The space station, positioned at the edge of human-explored territory, served as a training facility for scout regiments and a monitoring post for deep space activities. To outside observers, it would have appeared unremarkable. A modest collection of functional modules connected by utilitarian corridors, populated by young humans going about their daily duties. Commander Sarah Chen sat in her office reviewing training reports from Scout Regiment 47, the same unit that had encountered alien forces in what was already being called the incident in official communications. At 28, she was considered quite young for command of a scout regiment, but her background in xenobiology and tactical analysis made her the ideal choice for deep space exploration duties. The door chimed, and Lieutenant Marcus Webb entered, carrying a datapad and wearing the slightly puzzled expression that had become common among the station's officers since the alien encounter. At 22, Webb was typical of the scout personnel, young, enthusiastic, and possessing the kind of adaptive intelligence that made humans excellent explorers. Commander, we've received another communication attempt from the alien coalition, Webb reported, settling into the chair across from Chen's desk. It's the same pattern as the previous 17 attempts. They approach to approximately 5 light minutes distance, broadcast what appears to be a diplomatic message, then retreat when our patrol ships move to intercept. Commander Chen leaned back in her chair, her dark eyes reflecting the kind of strategic thinking that had made her successful in first contact scenarios. Any progress on translating their communications? Dr. Yamamoto's linguistics team thinks they've cracked about 60% of the primary language, plus fragments of 6 others. Apparently, the alien coalition consists of multiple species trying to coordinate their diplomatic efforts. The translations are interesting. Webb activated his datapad, projecting a holographic display of the translated messages. Commander Chen read them with growing amusement mixed with genuine concern. They keep apologizing, she observed. Every message includes multiple statements of regret for the unfortunate misunderstanding and requests for peaceful negotiation to prevent further conflict. They seem to think we're angry with them. Lieutenant Webb nodded, his expression reflecting the confusion that had characterized human responses to alien behavior since the first contact. It's strange, Commander. We send patrol ships to establish communication range, standard first contact protocol, and they interpret it as aggressive pursuit. They seem genuinely terrified of us. Commander Chen stood and walked to the large viewport that dominated one wall of her office. Outside, she could see the training ships of Scout Regiment 47 conducting routine exercises, their sleek forms moving in patterns that would have been immediately recognizable to any human but apparently seemed chaotic and threatening to alien observers. Have you reviewed the tactical analysis of the initial contact? She asked. Yes, ma'am. It's fascinating from an academic perspective. The alien fleet significantly outgunned and outnumbered our patrol. But they used formation tactics that our training scenarios covered in the first semester. Classic mistakes: overextension, poor communication coordination, predictable movement patterns. It was like fighting a textbook example of what not to do in multi-ship engagements. Commander Chen turned back to face her lieutenant. And what did our people think during the engagement? Webb consulted his datapad. According to the debriefings, most of the squad leaders thought it was some kind of advanced training simulation. The alien technology looked impressive, but their tactical implementation was so flawed that several officers reported wondering if this was a test of our ability to defeat numerically superior forces using basic maneuvering principles. The commander's expression grew more serious. And when did they realize it wasn't a simulation? When the alien ships started actually taking damage and their crews began sending what were clearly distress signals. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported that his squad immediately shifted from simulation protocols to actual first contact procedures, which is why they disabled rather than destroyed the alien vessels. Commander Chen nodded approvingly. The young officers of Scout Regiment 47 had handled the situation exactly as their training demanded. Assess the threat, respond proportionally, minimize casualties, and gather intelligence for future diplomatic efforts. The fact that they had done this while significantly outgunned spoke well of their adaptability and training. What's the current assessment of alien technological capabilities? She asked. Lieutenant Webb brought up another display, showing detailed analysis of the alien equipment that had been observed during the encounter. Their energy sources are more advanced than ours, and their ships are larger and more heavily armored. But their weapons targeting systems appear to be automated, rather than manually controlled, which makes them predictable. Their shield technology is impressive but seems designed to defend against energy weapons rather than kinetic projectiles. So they built their defenses to fight opponents using technology similar to their own, Commander Chen observed. When they encountered human weapons designed around different principles, their defenses were less effective. Exactly. Dr. Park's analysis suggests that galactic warfare might have become standardized around certain technological approaches. Our willingness to use projectile weapons, chemical explosives, and electronic warfare apparently caught them completely off guard. The commander returned to her seat, considering the implications of what they had learned. What's the recommendation from command? Webb's expression became more formal as he shifted to official briefing mode. Admiral Harrison's office has classified this as a successful first contact scenario, with potential for diplomatic development. We're to maintain current patrol schedules, continue monitoring alien communication attempts, and prepare for possible formal diplomatic contact within the next 6 months. And our force levels? No changes recommended. Current Scout Regiment strength is considered adequate for ongoing contact scenarios. Command doesn't anticipate any need for additional military presence in this sector. Commander Chen smiled slightly at this assessment. From the human perspective, the encounter had been handled exactly as training protocols demanded. Establish contact, demonstrate capability, minimize conflict, gather intelligence, and prepare for diplomatic engagement. The fact that alien forces had been significantly more numerous and technologically advanced was interesting from a tactical standpoint, but not particularly concerning from a strategic one. The door chimed again, and Dr. Elena Yamamoto entered, carrying the kind of excited expression that linguists got when they had decoded something particularly interesting. At 31, she was the senior xenolinguistics specialist on Kepler Station, and had been working around the clock to understand alien communications. "Commander, Lieutenant," she greeted them with barely contained enthusiasm. "I have some fascinating developments regarding alien communication patterns." Commander Chen gestured for the doctor to join them. "What have you discovered?" Dr. Yamamoto activated her own datapad, projecting linguistic analysis charts and communication patterns. "The alien communications we've intercepted reveal some very interesting assumptions about human society and military structure." The display showed translated excerpts from intercepted alien communications, many of which made the humans exchange puzzled glances. "They appear to believe that Scout Regiment 47 represents our elite military forces," Dr. Yamamoto continued. "Their communications refer to our people as advanced human warriors and the finest soldiers of Earth. They seem to have no concept that scouts are essentially trainees, gaining experience before potential military service." Lieutenant Webb laughed despite himself. "They think Jimmy Rodriguez and his squad are elite special forces?" Rodriguez still gets confused by the coffee machine in the mess hall. "It gets more interesting," Dr. Yamamoto continued. "Their communications suggest they've been analyzing our tactics and equipment, trying to understand how we achieved such devastating effectiveness against their superior forces. They keep referencing our advanced weapon systems and innovative tactical doctrines." Commander Chen studied the translations with growing amazement. "They're treating standard scout equipment as advanced military technology?" "Apparently so. Our kinetic rifles, electromagnetic pulse grenades, and electronic countermeasure systems are being described as sophisticated anti-galactic warfare technology. They seem to think we specifically designed our weapons to counter their defensive systems." "Well," the commander observed thoughtfully, "in a sense, we did. Our military doctrine has always emphasized defeating technologically superior opponents. We just didn't know we were going to encounter any." Dr. Yamamoto nodded eagerly. "That's exactly the point. Human military thinking appears to be completely foreign to galactic civilization. They've been fighting wars using similar technologies and tactical approaches for centuries. Our willingness to use asymmetric warfare, combined arms tactics, and adaptive strategies is something they've never encountered." Lieutenant Webb brought up the tactical analysis again. "So when we scattered our ships and regrouped for flanking attacks, they interpreted that as advanced tactical doctrine rather than basic maneuvering?" "Precisely. Their communications describe our tactics as unprecedented and impossible to predict. What we consider standard small unit tactics, they view as revolutionary warfare innovation." Commander Chen stood and walked to the viewport again, watching the training exercises outside. Young humans barely out of their teens practiced maneuvers that apparently represented cutting-edge military innovation to galactic civilizations that had been spacefaring for millennia. "What else have the communications revealed about alien society?" she asked. Dr. Yamamoto's expression became more serious. "This is where it gets concerning, Commander. Their society appears to be highly stratified, with strict hierarchical structures and predetermined social roles. The concept of voluntary military service is apparently foreign to them. They keep referring to our people as warrior caste humans because they can't understand how someone would choose military service." "They have a warrior caste system?" Lieutenant Webb asked. "All of their communications suggest caste-based societies where individuals are born into specific roles. The idea that humans can choose their careers, change their minds, or pursue multiple different paths during their lifetimes seems to be incomprehensible to them." Commander Chen considered this information carefully. That would explain their tactical rigidity. If their military personnel are assigned to roles based on birth rather than aptitude and choice, they wouldn't develop the adaptive thinking that our volunteers demonstrate. "It gets worse," Dr. Yamamoto continued. "Their communications suggest they view our society as a warrior species because they can't understand how we could produce such effective fighters without a dedicated warrior caste. They seem to think all humans are raised from birth for warfare." The three humans exchanged concerned glances. If alien civilizations believed humanity was a species dedicated to warfare, the implications for future diplomatic contact could be serious. "Have they made any attempts to understand our actual social structure?" Commander Chen asked. "That's what makes their recent communications so interesting. They've started asking questions about human society, our population, our technological capabilities, and our intentions regarding galactic civilization. The problem is, They're asking these questions while maintaining their assumption that we're a military species. Lieutenant Webb reviewed the latest communications on his datapad. So when they ask about our population, they're really asking how many warriors we can field? Exactly. And when they ask about our technology, they're asking about our weapons capabilities. Every question is framed from the perspective of trying to assess our threat level. Commander Chen returned to her seat, her expression thoughtful. What's Command's assessment of their intentions? Dr. Yamamoto consulted her notes. Admiral Harrison's office believes the aliens are genuinely interested in diplomatic contact but are proceeding cautiously because they overestimate our military capabilities. The recommendation is to continue current protocols, maintain routine patrols, respond to communication attempts, but avoid any actions that might be interpreted as aggressive. And if they want to establish formal diplomatic contact? Webb asked. Standard first contact protocols apply. We invite them to approach within communication range, exchange basic cultural information, and see if we can establish mutual understanding. The key is to avoid revealing how much they've overestimated our capabilities until we understand their intentions. Commander Chen smiled slightly. So we let them continue thinking that Scout Regiment 47 represents our elite military forces? For now, yes. It's not deception exactly, since we're not claiming to be anything we're not. We're simply allowing them to maintain their assumptions while we learn more about their society and capabilities. The meeting continued for another hour, covering logistics, communication protocols, and contingency planning. As it concluded, Commander Chen found herself reflecting on the strange situation they found themselves in. Through a simple training exercise that had encountered unexpected contact, humanity had apparently impressed galactic civilization so thoroughly that they were now approaching with a combination of respect and fear. The irony wasn't lost on her that Scout Regiment 47, consisting primarily of young adults gaining experience before deciding whether to pursue military careers, was being treated as humanity's finest military force by civilizations that had been spacefaring for centuries longer than humans had existed as a species. As Lieutenant Webb and Dr. Yamamoto left to continue their duties, Commander Chen remained at the viewport, watching the training exercises and wondering what would happen when galactic civilization eventually learned the truth about human society. Would they be relieved to discover that humanity wasn't the warrior species they imagined? Or would they be even more concerned to learn that humans achieved such effectiveness without even trying? Outside the viewport, Scout Regiment 47 continued their routine training exercises, their movements precise and purposeful, as they practiced the skills that would serve them well in exploration and potential military careers. None of them yet realized that their training exercises had become the subject of intense study by alien intelligence agencies trying to understand how human society produced such effective fighters apparently by accident. 6 months after the initial contact incident, the first formal diplomatic meeting between humanity and galactic civilization was scheduled to take place at the neutral coordinates halfway between human and alien space. The location chosen was an empty system, with no strategic value to either side, where a specially configured space station had been constructed for the historic encounter. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had been chosen to represent humanity in these critical negotiations. At 45, she had extensive experience in international diplomacy and had been specifically selected for her expertise in cross-cultural communication and conflict resolution. Her background in anthropology and psychology made her uniquely qualified to navigate the complexities of first contact with alien civilizations. The human delegation was intentionally small. Ambassador Vasquez, Dr. David Chen, Commander. Sarah Chen's older brother and a specialist in comparative political systems, Lieutenant Colonel James Park, a military advisor with expertise in asymmetric warfare, and Dr. Yamamoto, whose linguistic breakthroughs had made communication possible. They arrived aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony, a modified exploration ship equipped with the latest communication technology and defensive systems. What they found waiting for them was beyond their expectations. The alien delegation consisted of 7 massive vessels, each representing a different galactic civilization, arranged in a formal formation that spoke of ceremony and importance. The ships themselves were architectural marvels, their exotic designs reflecting aesthetic principles completely foreign to human sensibilities. Ambassador Vasquez stood in the Harmony's observation lounge, studying the alien fleet through the massive viewport. Each ship was easily 10 times the size of their own vessel, their hulls gleaming with sophisticated technology and artistic embellishments that made them look more like floating palaces than spacecraft. "They certainly believe in making an impression," Lieutenant Colonel Park observed, his military mind automatically assessing the potential firepower represented by the alien vessels. Dr. Chen was running calculations on his datapad, his expression growing increasingly amazed. "The energy signatures from those ships suggest power sources that exceed our capabilities by orders of magnitude. Any one of those vessels could probably destroy our entire fleet without difficulty." Dr. Yamamoto was monitoring the communication frequencies, her equipment detecting multiple alien languages being used simultaneously as the various civilizations coordinated their diplomatic efforts. "They're taking this very seriously. I'm detecting formal ceremonial language patterns and what appears to be the galactic equivalent of diplomatic protocol discussions." Ambassador Vasquez maintained her calm demeanor, though privately she was beginning to understand why the alien civilizations had been so cautious in their approach to humanity. If they could field such impressive vessels and technology for a diplomatic meeting, what had they brought to their first military encounter? The communication system activated, transmitting a carefully worded message in the primary galactic trade language that Dr. Yamamoto had painstakingly decoded over the past months. "Human diplomatic vessel, we greet you with respect and hope for peaceful understanding. We request permission to begin formal diplomatic contact according to established galactic protocols." Ambassador Vasquez activated the response system, speaking slowly and clearly to ensure accurate translation. "Alien diplomatic representatives, we accept your greeting and welcome the opportunity for peaceful dialogue. We are prepared to begin diplomatic contact according to mutually agreed protocols." The response came with surprising quickness, suggesting the aliens had been prepared for this moment. "We propose a meeting aboard the neutral station that has been prepared for this purpose. Each delegation may bring 4 representatives. We hope this arrangement is acceptable to the honored human warriors." The human delegation exchanged glances at the phrase, "honored human warriors." Dr. Yamamoto's translations had suggested that alien civilizations viewed humans as a military species, but the formal diplomatic language confirmed how deeply this misunderstanding had taken root. 2 hours later, the first formal diplomatic contact between humanity and galactic civilization began in a conference room that looked like something from a science fiction movie. The chamber was vast, with a circular table large enough to accommodate representatives from multiple species with vastly different physiological requirements. The alien delegation was as impressive as their ships. Empress Zara Lin of the Zephyrian Federation sat with the kind of regal bearing that spoke of centuries of rule over star systems. Her silver skin reflected the chamber's lighting, and her 6 eyes moved constantly, taking in every detail of human appearance and behavior. High Commander Vexthara represented the Krillian Empire, her 4 arms moving in patterns that Dr. Yamamoto's briefings had identified as formal diplomatic gestures. The bioluminescent patches along her carapace glowed with carefully controlled patterns that conveyed respect and caution in equal measure. Prince Malthorn of the Draconian Confederation was perhaps the most imposing figure present, his massive frame and predatory features making him look like something from human mythology. Yet his golden eyes showed intelligence and genuine curiosity as he studied the human representatives. The other alien representatives were equally impressive, each reflecting the advanced nature of their respective civilizations. What struck the human delegation most forcefully was how seriously the aliens were taking this meeting. As if the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, Ambassador Vasquez began with carefully prepared opening remarks, designed to establish mutual respect and shared interest in peaceful coexistence. "We come to this meeting with hope for understanding and cooperation between our peoples. Humanity seeks peaceful relations with all galactic civilizations." The response from Empress Zara Lin was immediate and heartfelt. "We are grateful for the wisdom and restraint shown by human forces during our first encounter. Your people could have destroyed our fleets entirely but chose to demonstrate mercy. This gives us hope that our civilizations can coexist peacefully, despite our technological inferiority." The human delegation exchanged subtle glances. The aliens believed they were technologically inferior to humanity, a misperception that needed careful handling to avoid diplomatic catastrophe. Dr. Chen leaned forward slightly. "We appreciate your peaceful intentions, Perhaps we could begin by sharing information about our respective civilizations so that we might better understand each other's perspectives and capabilities. High Commander Vex Thera's bioluminescent patches flickered in what appeared to be agreement. We would be honored to learn more about human society. Our intelligence suggests that your people have achieved remarkable military effectiveness through social structures we do not understand. Ambassador Vasquez chose her words carefully. Human society values individual choice and voluntary association. Our military consists of individuals who have chosen to serve, rather than those assigned to such roles by birth or social obligation. The alien representatives reacted with obvious surprise. Prince Malthorn's deep voice rumbled through the translation system. You mean your warriors choose to become warriors? This is not determined by genetic caste or social assignment? That's correct, Lieutenant Colonel Park confirmed. In human society, individuals can pursue any career path they choose, including military service. Those who serve in our armed forces do so voluntarily because they want to serve their people and their principles. The implications of this revelation rippled through the alien delegation like a shockwave. If humans achieved such military effectiveness with volunteers who chose their roles, what did that suggest about their potential capabilities with full mobilization? Dr. Yamamoto had been monitoring the alien communications, and what she was hearing through their translation systems alarmed her. The aliens weren't just impressed by human military capabilities. They were genuinely terrified of the implications of human social structure. Empress Zara Lin spoke with carefully controlled urgency. If we may ask, what percentage of your population chooses military service? Ambassador Vasquez considered the question carefully before answering. In times of peace, approximately 1% of our population serves in active military roles, with perhaps another 2% in reserve capacity. The vast majority of humans pursue civilian careers in science, technology, arts, commerce, and other peaceful endeavors. The silence that followed this statement was profound. The alien representatives were clearly processing information that challenged their fundamental assumptions about human society. High Commander Vex Thera's forearms moved in agitated patterns. You achieved your military effectiveness with only 1% of your population in active service? The individuals we encountered in our first contact, Prince Malthorn rumbled. These were representative of your 1% military population? Lieutenant Colonel Park realized he needed to clarify this misunderstanding before it grew worse. Actually, the personnel you encountered were not active military. They were scout trainees, young adults gaining experience in space operations before deciding whether to pursue military careers. The alien delegation erupted in what the translation systems rendered as various expressions of shock and dismay. The humans realized they had just revealed information that made their previous demonstration even more threatening from the alien perspective. Dr. Chen attempted to provide context. In human society, we believe in giving young people opportunities to experience different career paths before making permanent decisions. Scout service is one way for them to gain experience in space operations, leadership, and problem-solving. Empress Zara Lin's 6 eyes focused intently on the human delegation. These young people who demonstrated such devastating effectiveness against our finest warriors. They were students? In a sense, yes, Ambassador Vasquez confirmed. They were gaining practical experience in space operations and first contact protocols. Their performance reflected their training, but they are not yet considered fully qualified military personnel. The revelation that Scout Regiment 47 consisted of trainees rather than elite warriors sent shockwaves through the alien delegation. If human trainees could defeat galactic military forces, what were actual human soldiers capable of accomplishing? Prince Malthorn's voice carried a note of desperate curiosity. What would happen if humanity mobilized its full military capability? The question hung in the air like a weapon, and Ambassador Vasquez realized she needed to answer it in a way that would reduce rather than increase alien fears about human intentions. Humanity has no desire to mobilize for aggressive purposes, she stated firmly. Our military doctrine is defensive in nature, designed to protect our people and our way of life. We seek peaceful coexistence with all intelligent species. But High Commander Vex Thara pressed for more specific information. If circumstances required full mobilization of human military forces, what percentage of your population could serve in combat roles? Lieutenant Colonel Park realized this was a critical moment that required absolute honesty. Theoretically, Our social structure and educational systems could support military mobilization of perhaps 20 to 30% of our adult population, but such mobilization would only occur in response to an existential threat to human survival. The alien representatives absorbed this information with obvious alarm. If humans could mobilize 30% of their population for military service, and if their trainees could already defeat galactic military forces, the implications for galactic security were staggering. Dr. Yamamoto was monitoring increasingly frantic alien communications, and she realized that the diplomatic meeting was having exactly the opposite effect from what had been intended. Instead of reassuring the aliens about human intentions, the revelations about human society were making them more terrified of human capabilities. Empress Zara Lin spoke with the gravity of someone delivering a formal statement that would affect the fate of civilizations. We appreciate your honesty regarding human capabilities. This information will be crucial for our governments as we consider how to proceed with diplomatic relations. Ambassador Vasquez sensed that the meeting was approaching a critical juncture. We hope that this information demonstrates humanity's commitment to transparency and peaceful relations. We have no desire for conflict and believe that our civilizations can benefit from mutual cooperation and understanding. The alien delegation's response was polite but clearly indicated they needed time to process the implications of what they had learned. The meeting concluded with formal diplomatic protocols and agreements for future communications. But the human delegation departed with the distinct impression that they had somehow made the situation worse rather than better. As the Harmony began its journey back to human space, Ambassador Vasquez found herself reviewing the diplomatic transcripts with growing concern. They had been completely honest about human society and capabilities. But that honesty had apparently convinced the alien civilizations that humanity represented an even greater potential threat than they had originally believed. Dr. Chen expressed what all of them were thinking. We came here to establish peaceful relations and ended up convincing them that we're even more dangerous than they thought. Lieutenant Colonel Park nodded grimly. When they process the full implications of what we told them, they're going to realize that the force they encountered wasn't even a representative sample of human military capability. It was a training exercise that happened to encounter hostile forces. Dr. Yamamoto was still monitoring alien communication frequencies, and what she was hearing troubled her. Their post-meeting communications suggest they're calling emergency sessions of their respective governments. They're treating this as a major security crisis. Ambassador Vasquez stared out at the stars, wondering if humanity's commitment to honesty and transparency in diplomacy had just triggered the very conflict they had hoped to avoid. The truth about human society was apparently more frightening to galactic civilization than any deception could have been. As the diplomatic vessel continued its journey home, the human delegation could only hope that alien civilizations would choose cooperation over conflict when they fully understood what they were dealing with. But given what they had witnessed during the diplomatic meeting, that hope seemed increasingly fragile. 1 year after the diplomatic meeting that had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy, the effects were still rippling through every aspect of galactic civilization. What had begun as a simple first contact scenario had evolved into a complete restructuring of political, military, and social relationships between species that had maintained stable hierarchies for millennia. The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never hosted such a momentous session. Representatives from 43 different civilizations had gathered to address what historians were already calling the human question. The challenge of integrating a species whose very existence challenged every assumption about warfare, society, and galactic order. Empress Zara Lin stood before the assembled delegates, her silver skin reflecting the chamber's crystalline architecture as she delivered a speech that would determine the course of galactic civilization for generations to come. Fellow representatives, she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber through translation systems that rendered her words in dozens of different languages simultaneously. We gather today not to discuss military threats or territorial disputes, but to acknowledge a fundamental shift in our understanding of what civilization can become. The chamber fell silent as delegates from across the galaxy focused their attention on the Zephyrian leader, who had become, almost by accident, the primary spokesperson for galactic human relations. 1 year ago, we encountered humans for the first time. We approached them as we had approached dozens of other newly spacefaring species, with overwhelming force designed to establish galactic supremacy and ensure compliance with existing power structures. What we discovered challenged every assumption we had made about warfare, society, and the nature of intelligent life itself. High Commander Vex Thara of the Krillian Empire activated her speaking privileges, her 4 arms moving in formal patterns of agreement. The Krillian Empire supports the Empress's assessment. Our initial encounter with human forces revealed tactical and strategic capabilities that exceed anything we had previously encountered in galactic civilization. More importantly, it revealed a social structure that produces such capabilities as a natural byproduct rather than through dedicated military castes. The massive form of Prince Malthorn dominated the Draconian Confederation's delegation area. His golden eyes swept across the assembly as he spoke. The Draconian Confederation has completed extensive analysis of human society and military doctrine. Their capabilities are not the result of superior technology or larger populations, but of social structures that encourage individual initiative, adaptive thinking, and voluntary excellence. They have accidentally created the most effective military force in galactic history while trying to build a peaceful society. A representative from the stellar hegemony, a civilization that had remained silent during most of the human-related discussions, requested speaking privileges. Ambassador Kethvin's crystalline form pulsed with carefully controlled energy patterns as he addressed the assembly. The hegemony has reviewed all available intelligence regarding human military capabilities and social structure. We have reached a conclusion that may disturb some delegates. Humans are not merely superior to us in military terms. They represent an evolutionary advance in social organization that makes our caste-based civilizations obsolete. The chamber erupted in sounds that the translation systems rendered as expressions of shock, disagreement, and alarm from dozens of different species. Ambassador Kethvin continued despite the disturbance. Consider the evidence. Humans achieve superior military effectiveness with volunteers rather than conscripts, superior innovation through individual choice rather than assigned roles, and superior adaptability through educational systems that encourage questioning rather than obedience. Their society produces excellence in every field by allowing individuals to pursue their talents rather than accept predetermined destinies. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a sophisticated housing system, flickered with patterns that indicated urgent communication. The collective has observed similar conclusions through our analysis of human cognitive patterns. Human brains appear to process information and make decisions using parallel systems that our species have never developed. They can simultaneously engage in tactical thinking, strategic planning, creative problem-solving, and emotional processing in ways that allow unprecedented adaptability. Empress Zara Lin raised one of her 6 hands, calling for order in the increasingly agitated chamber. These observations bring us to the central question. How does galactic civilization proceed when we have encountered a species that makes our existing social and political structures appear primitive? By comparison, the question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the assembled civilizations had built over millions of years of galactic development. For species that had organized their entire societies around concepts of predetermined roles, genetic castes, and hierarchical structures, the existence of humans represented more than a military threat. It represented proof that there were better ways to organize civilization. Ambassador Chen of Earth, who had been quietly observing the galactic debate, finally requested speaking privileges. The chamber fell silent as delegates focused their attention on the human representative, many seeing a human being in person for the first time. "Fellow delegates," he began, his voice carrying the kind of calm confidence that had characterized human diplomatic efforts. "I appreciate your analysis of human society and capabilities. However, I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about humanity's role in galactic civilization." He activated a holographic display that showed the current political map of the galaxy, with human space represented as a small cluster of systems on the periphery of the great galactic civilizations. Humanity did not develop our social structures or military doctrines in order to challenge or dominate galactic civilization. We developed them to solve problems specific to our own planetary environment and social evolution. The fact that these solutions happened to be effective in galactic contexts was unexpected for us as well. The display shifted to show comparative population and territorial statistics that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. Human space represented less than 1% of galactic territory, and human population was insignificant compared to the trillions of beings that comprised galactic civilization. Humanity has no desire to restructure galactic society or impose our systems on other species. We seek only peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation. The effectiveness of our military forces is not intended as a threat, but as a guarantee that we can defend ourselves while pursuing peaceful relations with all intelligent species. High Commander Vex Thera's bioluminescent patches flickered with what appeared to be skepticism. But surely humans understand that the existence of your society demonstrates the limitations of our own social structures. How can we maintain stability when our populations learn that voluntary systems produce superior results to our traditional methods? Ambassador Chen's response reflected the careful thought that humanity had given to exactly this question during the past year of increasing galactic tension. Every species must find social structures that work for their particular biology, psychology, and cultural development. What works for humans may not work for other species, just as your traditional systems might not work for humanity. We believe that diversity of approaches strengthens galactic civilization, rather than threatening it. Prince Malthorn's rumbling voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. Are you suggesting that humans do not view their social systems as superior to ours? We view them as appropriate for humanity, Ambassador Chen replied carefully. Whether they are superior is a judgment that each species must make for themselves. We're happy to share information about how our systems work, but we have no interest in forcing other species to adopt human methods. The ethereal collective's representative pulsed with rapid energy patterns that indicated intense processing, but the effectiveness of human military forces suggests that human social systems produce objectively superior results in at least some areas of activity. Ambassador Chen nodded thoughtfully. That may be true in some contexts, but effectiveness in warfare is not necessarily the measure of social superiority. Your civilizations have achieved technological advances, artistic accomplishments, and philosophical insights that humanity has barely begun to approach. Perhaps the real question is not which system is superior, but how we can all learn from each other. This suggestion sparked intense discussion among the galactic delegates. The concept of mutual learning between civilizations with vastly different social structures was intriguing, but also threatening to species that had built their entire cultures around concepts of fixed hierarchy and predetermined roles. Empress Zaralin spoke into the growing debate. The Zephyrian Federation proposes a formal framework for cultural and technological exchange with humanity. Rather than viewing human capabilities as a threat, we suggest treating them as an opportunity for mutual advancement. The proposal immediately divided the chamber. Some civilizations saw the potential benefits of learning from human innovation and adaptability. Others feared that exposure to human social concepts would destabilize their own carefully maintained hierarchical structures. Ambassador Kethven of the stellar hegemony pulsed with energy patterns that indicated strong agreement. The hegemony supports the Empress's proposal. We believe that galactic civilization has become stagnant precisely because we have avoided challenging our fundamental assumptions about social organization. Humanity offers us an opportunity to rediscover growth and advancement. But Representative Morthax of the hierarchical Dominion expressed the fears of more conservative civilizations. The Dominion objects to any framework that might expose our populations to destabilizing influences. Our social stability depends on maintaining traditional structures that have served us for millennia. Human concepts of individual choice and voluntary association could undermine the foundations of our civilization. The debate continued for hours, with delegates arguing passionately about the implications of formal relations with humanity. Some advocated for full integration and mutual learning. Others called for isolation and minimal contact to preserve existing social structures. Still others suggested careful, controlled exchange programs designed to gain benefits from human innovation while minimizing social disruption. Ambassador Chen listened to the debates with growing understanding of the challenges facing galactic civilization. The existence of humanity had forced these species to confront questions about their own social systems that they had never needed to consider before. The result was a galaxy-wide identity crisis that threatened to reshape civilization regardless of what formal policies were adopted. As the formal session concluded, Empress Zaralin announced the formation of a permanent committee to develop frameworks for human-galactic relations. The committee would include representatives from major civilizations as well as human observers, and would be tasked with finding ways to pursue beneficial cooperation while respecting the social and cultural needs of all species involved. In the months that followed, the effects of the committee's work began to transform galactic civilization in ways that surprised everyone involved. Some species did indeed begin experimenting with voluntary associations and individual choice, leading to unexpected innovations and social improvements. Others doubled down on traditional hierarchies, using human effectiveness as justification for more rigid control systems. The most significant change was the emergence of what scholars began calling hybrid civilizations, species that combined elements of human social innovation with their own traditional structures to create new forms of organization that neither humanity nor galactic civilization had previously imagined. Trade relationships flourished as human innovation in engineering and problem-solving proved valuable for galactic infrastructure projects, while galactic advances in energy production and material science revolutionized human technology. Cultural exchange programs introduced humans to art forms and philosophical concepts that expanded their understanding of what intelligent life could achieve, while introducing galactic species to human concepts of individual potential and voluntary cooperation. The most profound change was in military doctrine across the galaxy. Every major civilization began studying human tactical approaches, not to copy them exactly, but to understand the principles of adaptability, initiative, and innovative thinking that made them so effective. The result was a galaxy-wide military evolution that made conflict between major civilizations increasingly unlikely, not because of overwhelming human power, but because every species had learned to fight with the kind of unpredictable effectiveness that made large-scale warfare too dangerous to contemplate. 5 years after Scout Regiment 47 had accidentally changed the balance of galactic power through a routine training exercise, humanity found itself at the center of a transformed galaxy where cooperation had replaced conquest as the primary driver of interstellar relations. The young humans who had defeated alien fleets while wondering if they were facing some kind of advanced simulation had unknowingly triggered a revolution that made the galaxy a more peaceful, innovative, and hopeful place for all intelligent species. Commander Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen and head of Human Diplomatic Security, often stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Human Galactic Research Station and marveled at how a simple encounter in space had reshaped an entire galaxy. The universe had turned out to be far stranger, more diverse, and more wonderful than anyone had imagined, and humanity's role in it was just beginning to unfold. The scouts had done their job well, even if they had never realized they were doing it. The galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in millennia, that change represented hope rather than fear for every species that called the stars home.